Okay, some surprising news coming through on Capitol Hill. We are hearing that Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene intends to resign from her seat in the House effective early January. January 5th will be her final day on Capitol Hill. Greene, of course, is the one-time MAGA loyalist. She rose to prominence for her support of President Trump. And as of late, she's been in the headlines for her feuding with President Trump. We do have political analyst Brian Sobel standing by. Brian, any indicators at all that something like this could come?
No, I don't think we were hearing any indication that she was going to be resigning. And one wonders, really, it's inexplicable as to why she's resigning. Donald Trump and people that he has had feuds with have made up, countless times in the past few years. We've seen it with Marco Rubio and other people. It just, and resigning with so much time left in office, and she'll do this on January 5th. One wonders whether there's other factors involved, or whether polling in her district is telling her that she's become very unpopular. Who knows what the reasons are, but I would say, just in general, if she's resigning after this little dust up with the president, which could be solved, she's got very thin skin. And she was somebody that for the longest time has, given as much as she's had to take. It was a little bit of a bitter statement in my view.
So she is not carrying out the rest of her term, as we've alluded to. And
right.
Instead, what she's doing is she's choosing to leave Congress early. Of course, we know members of Congress are elected every 2 years, so we would have been following, presumably, her election, or at least her race closely come the 2026 midterms. But now that won't be happening, Brian. She's going to be resigning by January. That means that they'll have to have a special election. Do I have that right?
Or yes, that would be the possible way it could go. I don't know whether the governor also has an option there either. But yes, probably a special election, because actually we're pretty far out from the 26th election.
So when a member of Congress opts not to finish their term out, what does that tell you?
There are other factors at play. It can be family matters. It can be just that they know the end is coming. But it's very unusual. This is a very unusual move, but it's accompanied by, again, what I think was a very bitter statement by the representative, and sort of one of these things where, she opened the door, tossed a grenade in, and closed the door and is walking away. And it's inexplicable, as I said earlier, using that word. I'm sure we will learn more as time goes on, but I can't believe that her spat with the president, which is, as I always say with Donald Trump, is temporary, is the sole reason why she resigned. So I've got to believe there are other factors at play.
Just thinking off the top of your head, could there be another political office that she could be eyeballing? Is that possible?
The problem with that is people want to see completion. So the idea of running for something else happens all the time, right? But you don't do it from a position of, hey, I've decided to resign from my current position so that I can run for another position this early. You might see it, later, but this is a timing thing that's very curious. If she has her eye on another seat, and she did allude at the end of her statement to maybe I see you down the road, I'm paraphrasing there. Maybe she has something else in mind, but I don't see the efficacy in resigning now to run for another office and the way that she's resigning, which is basically, I think the Republicans aren't going to have a good midterm. I don't want to be party to being in the minority and having to fight for our president's agenda. That doesn't like me. Well, sounds a little bit schoolyardish to me.
So, Brian, we've been showing these tweets from Chad Pergram. Of course, he covers Capitol Hill so well for Fox News. He's got He's got the mathematical breakdown. It's kind of hard to read in the formatted wall of text we have here, but the important part I'll highlight. Basically, now there's going to be 432 members in the House, 219 Republicans versus 213 Democrats. What does this shakeup mean for the already razor-thin margins in the lower chamber?
Just that. It's razor thin. While we are watching Republicans and Democrats right now pretty monolithically vote, it suggests that just a few people moving over the line can really derail the president's agenda in the House of Representatives. And so with that and Marjorie Taylor Greene's reference to how she thinks Republicans will do in the midterm, which historically the party out of office does well vis-a-vis a president from another party being in office, it could mean that Republicans don't do well in the midterms because of the razor-thin margin here. And for that reason, maybe there's some truth in the fact that Greene does not want to be in the minority in Congress and as she said, having to defend the president's policies. Having said that, the falling out of because of the Epstein situation, she got what she wanted in the end, which was the president signing off on releasing the files. So and one assumes that she was lobbying for that. So I just think this is a pretty thin set of reasons for her resigning tonight, but it does put Congress even further in play.
So we are getting some reaction from Thomas Massie, also a Republican in the lower chamber. He says, "I'm very sad for our country, but so happy for my friend Marjorie. I'll miss her tremendously. She embodies what a true representative should be. Everyone should read her statement. There's more honesty expressed in these 4 pages than most politicians will speak in a lifetime." Brian, there's an interesting dynamic going on here. We're starting to see some Republicans criticizing the direction of the very political movement that they once supported. What direction is this movement heading today?
Well, I think that's going to remain to be seen. You're seeing Republicans now deciding that in certain cases they don't want to go along with what the president is interested in doing, and you're seeing on the Democrat side of the aisle as well. You've got a break between the really left progressive Democrats and the more mainline Democrats. And now with Republicans, you're starting to see a split between the hard right Republicans and some of those that are not so much in concert with the president, Massie being one of them, of course. And heretofore, Taylor Greene was not one of those people. She was a full-on supporter of the president. But for whatever reason, she took a different tack here, and it's something that the Republican Party is now going to have to deal with in Congress.
Does it feel like the Epstein files, this is a reverberation of the larger impacts of the Epstein files, Brian?
It's hard to say because I think Congress made it clear, both the Senate and the House made it clear that they wanted the files released. And President Trump, read the tea leaves pretty quickly and said, okay, well, I'll sign the law that releases everything. So I think for those people who wanted full transparency, they've received it. And it's interesting when you think about why Democrats want the Epstein files totally released versus why the Republicans want it totally released. But a lot of it revolves around politics and who may be mentioned in the Epstein files and what damage can be done to leading Democrats, leading Republicans, including the President of the United States. So to me, this has a little bit of the mutually assured destruction component to it, because I think from what we're learning, the Epstein people and Epstein himself reached out to Democrats and Republicans alike and attempted to have them use their influence to help him in whatever goals he had.
Does it feel like, let's pretend that for a moment here, let's move this breaking news aside for a moment. Given some of the friction that MTG has had with President Trump as of late, would it have necessarily been surprising if she had faced an uphill battle if she had run for re-election in 2026?
Well, depending on how much the president wanted to support her opponent. But my feeling was, and I've said it in a few interviews, is that Donald Trump gets over problems with people pretty quickly. And I had every reason to believe that now that the Epstein files have been released and Marjorie Taylor Greene helped achieve that, that eventually in the next few weeks, they'd get together, iron out their differences, and Donald Trump would become again a supporter. That's what leads me to believe there's more at play here than just the Epstein files. Because as I say, Donald Trump has a history of making up with people, or at least treating people well who he's had a problem with. And of course, there are exceptions. Clearly, we saw it with the funeral of Dick Cheney. You know, Donald Trump did not attend. I think his rift with the Cheney family was not resolved and will not be resolved. But those are more of one-offs, to be honest with you. Mostly, he finds a way to find some common ground, even with people who he's had disagreements with.
So while we're talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene, let's talk about, she still has a little bit over a month left in Congress. Let's be clear, she isn't out yet.
Right.
But let's talk about the significance of her run in the House. What did MTG mean for not only the Republicans and their legislative priorities, what did she mean for the GOP's branding in recent years?
Well, I think for some people in the GOP, she was so far right that it was at times uncomfortable. Her statements were really full of anger, which is really interesting in contrast to her statement tonight that she's hurt by the president and she has all these people sending her notes and they're angry and vindictive. That was the Marjorie Taylor Greene that was in Congress for quite a while. She really said a lot of things about her enemies that weren't very kind. And some people might say, in fairness, she's getting what she gave. And that's just par for the course if that's the way that you handle things. I mean, she's the same person who had no problem when we're talking about decorum and other things during a State of the Union speech by the president, Joe Biden, to be yelling out liar. It made, I think, a lot of people in the center left, center right, very uncomfortable, completely outspoken, and a difficult personality. And I don't know whether she just, again, going back to the top of our conversation, is that thin-skinned that she could not put up with the president criticizing her and or suggesting he would support an opponent against her. But again, so early in the process.
We do have this visual representation in light of this news, just kind of giving an idea of the razor-thin margins, again, in the lower chamber of Congress. I got to ask you, Brian, moving ahead here, of course, the 2026 midterms, you and I presumably will have quite a few conversations about the midterms between now and November. Redistricting has been a huge topic of conversation of how that will play a role in deciding the balance of power in the House. As it stands today, how much clarity do we have on which side of the aisle has the advantage getting into 2026? Is it too early?
I think so, Austin, to be honest with you. And we don't even have clarity given some of the court action around the Texas redistricting, what may happen in California and other states. More to come on that. But, Texas started a process that put congressional districts across the country a little bit in play. And certainly in California, where Prop 50 in California passed, which gives an advantage in 5 congressional seats that were Republican seats to Democrats. Now, those Democrats do have to win in an election, but from a registration standpoint, they have an advantage. That'll play out in that graphic you just showed with respect to how many Republicans are in the House of Representatives and how many Democrats. That graphic that's up right now, 219 to 213. We don't know yet how redistricting will affect those numbers, nor do we know yet how history will affect those numbers in terms of the party being out of office, tending to do well in a midterm.
Political analyst Brian Sobel being generous with his time tonight. Brian, any final thoughts? Where does this story go from here? What should we be tracking next?
Well, I'm going to be eager to hear more detail, and our viewers should as well, about the reasons why Marjorie Taylor Greene has pulled the plug on Congress. Again, I don't think it can only be the fact that she's having a dust up with the President of the United States, because I'm listening to her statement and it's basically a pox on all your houses, and I'm walking away from this. So I'm eager to hear more.
You know, Brian, while we continue to track Capitol Hill, one other thing I will mention, by the way, is and by the way, I will also say that we're getting word, believe this is from the Washington Examiner. This is an interesting angle that I hadn't thought of. I want to bounce this off of you. David Mark with this, saying MTG is set to resign from the House January 5th, just after passing 5 years in office. That makes her eligible, Brian, for a congressional pension. What do you know about congressional pensions?
Only that they're available, and they are available to a lot of ex-members of the House of Representatives, some that I know, and that because of the fact that she sets January 5th as her walk-away date, if she has hit the 5-year mark, there's a pension available. It's kind of feeds the cynicism that a lot of people have, Austin, about these members of Congress that go into Congress and just make sure that they hit certain marks so that they walk away with something. And looks like the 5 years on is right around the January 5th date that she's walking away.
Brian Sobel being generous with his time tonight. Brian, thanks for coming on for the breaking news. We'll talk soon.
My pleasure. Have a good night, Austin.
Thank you, sir. Have a good weekend. So what we're going to do is, I just want to read this one more time for the viewers. Again, David Mark of the Examiner saying, MTG is set to resign on the 5th of January. This comes, and that date will just pass 5 years of her being in office. That does make her eligible for a congressional pension. I believe there's a second piece to this. Per a July 2023 Congressional Research Service report, members of Congress are eligible for a pension at the age of 62 if they have completed at least 5 years of service. Okay, that'll be something worth tracking as well. Live look at Capitol Hill, just about 9:15 in the nation's capital. Let's hit a break. Our coverage continuing in a moment.